Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey everybody, it's Debbie Potts, and I have Andy Schreiber on the show finally today to talk about vitamins, minerals, electrolytes, and all the things that we need as athletes, especially as low-carb athletes. So I've been trying to get Andy on the show to talk more about the purpose and the why, and we're going to kind of go into what Pure Vitamin Club is about and how we can really optimize our health at a cellular level. It is always my goal to help educate you kind of health building topics on the low carb athlete. So Andy, thanks for coming on my podcast today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
So let's talk about who Andy is and get into what, the purpose of the Pure Vitamin Club, how that came about.
All right. Well, I started this company back in 2014 with my friend Vinny Tortorich. He and I have been friends for going on 30 years.
Wow. And
he is actually one of the leading voices and has been for quite a while in low carb eating. He coined the expression NSNG, standing for no sugar, no grains, which is a trademark now that belongs to the company. And he's been sort of ahead of the game on this concept for quite a long time, has built a big following with his Fitness Confidential podcast and the book Fitness Confidential, which was a very big success and continues to sell. So he and I, over the years, we started a few different businesses together and nothing that really went anywhere. But back in 2014, after he had built up some really good success with the podcast, he built up a huge audience with that and built up a very good success with the book. He had been wanting for quite some time to launch a vitamin company. And where that came from was back in 2007, Vinny was diagnosed with leukemia. And fortunately, it was one of the most easily treated forms of leukemia. And he made a full recovery. But even as careful as he always was about his diet, he started to become even more attentive to what he put in his body and did more research and believed that supplementing with a proper balance of things was a very good idea. However, virtually everything on the market was full of all kinds of unnecessary and often actually harmful, what they call other ingredients. Yeah. If you ever look at a bottle of any kind of a supplement, it'll list the nutrition sort of supplement facts. It's got this many milligrams of this many micrograms of that. But then at the bottom, under the box, you'll see something that says other ingredients. And those are all the sort of inert, inactive ingredients that have no nutritional value, but they're there to make the manufacturing easier or to, a lot of times, just to fill up space. If you have a capsule that holds, 1,000 milligrams worth of product, but you're only selling 750 milligrams worth of whatever it is that you're, putting in there, vitamin C or whatever, manufacturers would say, well, how do I make this capsule not look half empty or a tablet? And then they just fill it with garbage to fill it up. Mm-hmm. So Vinny had been wanting for quite some time to, for his own health as well as anybody else's, develop a line of supplements that didn't do that. So when he had the wherewithal, after having built up the audience and built up some, frankly, some money from the success of the book, he said, now's the time, I want to do it. And he called me one day and said, literally, I remember the exact conversation. I said, hey, Vinny, what's up? He said, we're going in the vitamin business. And I said, okay. And I've had a lifelong interest in vitamins as well, and I've always taken them. I didn't know, nearly what I know now, obviously, but I said, okay. And we got together with a third partner who was still our sort of silent partner, who was Vinny's writing partner on the book. And we literally sat down over lunch and said, okay, what is it that we're doing? Well, we're selling vitamins. Okay. And we want them to be really pure. We don't want to have any added ingredients. We don't want any fillers or flow agents or colorants or bleaches that change the color, any of that. So, okay, so we're selling pure vitamins, and our idea was to do it and model it after Dollar Shave Club, which at that time was just new and was very successful. So we wanted to do it on a sort of subscription model, call it a club. So we said, okay, so they're pure, they're vitamins, and it's a club.
Put it together.
Let's call it Pure Vitamin Club. We got on our phones at the lunch table to see if the URL was available. It was. We did a quick trademark search. That was available. We literally on our phones went to GoDaddy.com to buy the URL right there on the spot. Called our attorney, said, let's get going on trademarking this. And we started.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was a productive lunch meeting.
It was really, really productive.
Take action.
And, that is now well over 6 years ago.
Yeah, I remember when it came out, listening to Vinny's podcast and following everybody in that group. So it is, when I was talking about passion and purpose and kind of feel like it's your mission. And I think Vinny's story and knowing you for a long time, Vinny knowing you a long time, that it's what drives you. And he had such huge success with creating NSNG and the concept of that, and just how his own healing and rebuilding story that he shared in the book Fitness Confidential, that hopefully everyone's read, is amazing. And it just, that you can take control of your health, which I keep talking about every day, and take ownership of your body by what you put into it. You have a choice. Right. You have a freaking choice. And that's what's kind of driving me every day, is to, podcast and blog and research. Like, we're healthy. It's up to you to be healthy. You can't blame anybody else. And even at your genetics, it's epigenetics. So, I love what you guys have done and what you're doing to grow the Pure Vitamin Club, because so many people don't understand why they need to add supplements, because the food that we eat isn't the same as we ate 50 years ago.
No, it really isn't. It really isn't. Our soil is depleted. Our air is polluted. Our water tables are polluted. And what gets grown, even if you're buying organic, it's still not delivering the same nutritional punch that it used to. And that's even assuming that you are eating a healthy diet. And as try as we might, none of us succeed at that perfectly. We do the best we can. We're always telling people that just like we advise, whether you're buying our products or anybody else's supplement products, to really look at those labels to see what you're actually putting in your body. It's equally true, if not more so, of foods, because any kind of a prepackaged food, whether it's in a can or a bottle or a jar or a box, is just, it's shocking what goes into those products and gets passed off with, all sorts of advisories about how healthy it is for you.
Yeah, I think it's people understanding that when the food that you're eating, especially if it's from a package and has a barcode,
right,
is probably depleted. If it's not organic, it probably is covered with pesticides and getting that glyphosate, and the soil that it's grown in. And if you are not taking any supplements at all, or if you're buying stuff from the grocery store, or I tell people even Costco, you're probably having good, expensive quality pee coming out that you're not even absorbing the nutrients. And what I talk about a lot of my show is about leaky gut and permeable gut wall lining. So even if you're eating healthy foods, most of us have some level of leaky gut and a damaged gut wall lining that you're not even to break your food down and then absorb it properly in your intestinal
Correct.
lining. So it's really essential to optimize health, and we continue to talk about immune system and build that resiliency. We need to supplement. And I know a lot of my clients I coached aren't taking anything when I start with them. And you can't out supplement bad lifestyle habits. I must add that.
No. And supplements are not a replacement for good lifestyle habits. What they are is exactly what the word is. They are there to supplement what you are doing with your diet, exercise, and other lifestyle choices. No matter what you eat on a daily basis, on any given day, there's going to be one of the 13, what they call the 13 essential vitamins, which means that your body literally requires them to function, and the number of key minerals that we need in our diet. On any given day, you're going to fall short of what your body wants and needs of one or more of those. Today, based on what you eat, you may not get enough B6. Tomorrow, you might not get enough vitamin A. The next day, not enough C. And that is why we always recommend for everybody a multivitamin. And that is the purpose of a multivitamin. I think one of the big questions people have, one of the questions I get all the time is, because we sell a multivitamin as well as specific, we sell vitamin B12, a magnesium, a vitamin D, and more coming. If I take the multivitamin, why do I need the vitamin D? And the answer is you don't necessarily. The answer is everybody should take a multivitamin, because of what I was just saying, that no matter what the day, you're going to fall short on one or more of those, and it's not always going to be the same. And the purpose of a multivitamin is to fill in the gaps on a consistent basis, not to overload you, not to address any chronic deficiencies in any one thing, which is why the amounts in there are calibrated the way they are. It's just to make sure that on any given day, you will have enough of what you need to function. Beyond that, if you have specific needs based on your lifestyle, your exercise habits, and any chronic deficiencies you might have for any medical reason, that's when you look at additional supplementation of a specific nutrient.
And I think a lot of people are experiencing stress. My thing is chronic stress, and the way we live life, just doing so much every day, always multitasking. We're on our phone, we're on the computer, we're not ever just doing one thing at once. And so we have this fast-paced, addicted to busyness lifestyle that increases your need for nutrients, because stress depletes that whole process.
That's right.
Your body's always methylating. We need additional nutrients. As I study genetics and Dr. Ben Lynch, his book, I keep reading over again about dirty genes and how our methylation cycle needs so much extra support. But you're putting that on top of, a toxic world, and the stress that we put on our body from our way of living, but also our environmental triggers and our toxins in the food we're eating. But it's fascinating to me is how many people don't realize that you might feel okay, but if you look at when I do lab testing with clients, and even myself, I just go to my labs like, okay, I feel pretty good. I'm at low level. I could feel this much better, really optimize and thrive each day if I just did this and that and supplement with this. So I think people are afraid of taking supplements because they think, oh, I can get it through my food, or I can, get that. But you don't realize how much as an athlete and a stressed, busy lifestyle, how much more we need to add to our diet.
No, that's absolutely right. And I think sometimes athletes think that because they're living a more healthy lifestyle, that they are less likely to need supplements, and it's actually the opposite, because depending on how hard you're exercising, what you're doing, as good as it is for you in many other ways, it is stressing your body in some ways too, and it is using up some of those nutrients you need to replace even more. Mm-hmm. So for athletes, it becomes extra crucial to make sure that you are keeping your body as well nourished as you possibly can.
So what do you find with, I know Vinny and a lot of his listeners are athletes, and he's, we're endurance athletes primarily here. what supplements you found that people need to add to improve their recovery and repair. And also, there's other things, an important part of recovery and repair, sleeping. So, getting
Yeah.
into quality sleep at night is what we really should focus on for recovery and repair. But what nutrients do we need to add in to optimize our health and recovery?
Okay. Two main things that we recommend strongly for anybody, any athlete, but particularly for endurance athletes. Number one, electrolytes. If you're out doing any kind of endurance training, or really any activity that produces a serious amount of perspiration, you are depleting your electrolytes in a big way, and you are becoming dehydrated. You are putting your muscles under incredible stress. They are going to cramp on you. They are going to fail on you. And by that, I mean, and any endurance athlete will know what I'm talking about. When you reach that point where it just feels like your muscles just won't go anymore. You just, if you're running, you just have to kind of stop. It's like you can barely put one leg in front of another. That means that you have dehydrated yourself, and water alone is not going to do it, because you have sweated out so much of the minerals, primarily the sodium, the potassium, the magnesium, but also calcium and manganese. Your muscles need those to function. And if you're sweating that much and drinking, but not consuming electrolytes along with that, you're even flushing more of the electrolytes out of your body, more of those minerals, and you're making it worse. You have to balance the two. So you also have to make sure that you're not taking too much electrolyte in comparison to the water. You need the two together. So electrolytes that, growing up, we all heard, if you're going to do that kind of thing, take Gatorade, drink Powerade or Gatorade. And the concept is right, because it is electrolyte replacement, but the actual electrolyte content in one of those kind of drinks is fairly small, number one. And number two, they're full of sugar, or, now they're all available in versions that are artificially sweetened. But in terms of how your liver processes an artificial sweetener, it really doesn't know the difference between that and actual sugar. So it has the same effects on your insulin movements, and is going to contribute to cramping as well. It's not going to really serve you well. So we introduced, it's about 2 years ago now, two and a half years ago, we introduced our own electrolyte product. We call it Ultra Salt. Vinny, as you know, is an ultra athlete himself. And so he was very well versed in what makes a good electrolyte formula. We also did, obviously, lots of research and worked with chemists to get this right. There are a couple things about electrolytes that are important. Number one is there has to be the right ratio of sodium to potassium. If that ratio isn't in the right range, then it's not going to work as well. So we had to get that ratio right. We had to make sure that there was enough in there that it will do the job, and that there are the most alkaline versions of all those different minerals as possible, for a couple of reasons. Number one, the more acid a version of any mineral or anything that you consume, the more likely your muscles are to contract and cramp. Number two, the more acid versions are very difficult on the stomach, which is why a lot of people a lot of ultra athletes, when they take electrolytes for a marathon or an ultra marathon or a century bike ride, will experience nausea and sometimes even vomiting. I've talked to a lot of ultra athletes who said they've spent years doing marathons or ultra marathons, knowing that if they don't take the electrolytes, they're not going to get through it. But if they do, it's going to bother their stomach, and they're going to be nauseated at some point and maybe even vomit. And that has to do with the versions. One thing that a lot of people don't take into consideration when they're looking at supplements is every one of the vitamins and minerals come in a number of different versions, which have to do with what molecule of that nutrient is bound to. Is the vitamins, is the magnesium bound to calcium? Is it bound to a citrate? What is it bound to? And that determines how effective it is, determines how easy it is on your system. So when we designed the ultrasalt electrolyte complex, we wanted to make sure that it was as alkaline as could be and as easy on the stomach as could be. So we used, and also as effective, as the best integrated, assimilated by your body. So we worked very hard on that. We got the ratio of sodium to potassium right. And we use, for example, one of the ingredients in our electrolyte is potassium bicarbonate. So everybody knows if you get, like heartburn, one of the things that a lot of people do is they take sodium bicarbonate, baking soda, because it settles the stomach. Well, potassium bicarbonate does the same thing. So we have, talked to a lot of ultramarathoners who switched to us, who said for the first time, they're able to take electrolytes that keep their stomach completely calm. With the magnesium, most electrolyte formulas are going to use magnesium citrate, which is A, very acid and is more likely to leave you vulnerable to cramping. But B, magnesium citrate has a powerful laxative effect. And the last thing you want if you are doing an ultramarathon is to have a laxative effect. Disaster pants, as we call it.
Yeah.
So we were very, very careful about which versions we used, and people have been, the results have been really fantastic. People, we have converted literally thousands of ultra athletes from some of the other electrolyte products on the market to our ultrasalt.
Wow. Yeah, and then also for people that are low carb or keto, that's often an area we need to supplement too, because if you're not doing endurance athlete or athletic training, just day-to-day wise, we need a little bit more electrolytes.
Right, absolutely true. So people who do follow a low carb lifestyle do require more salt, and frankly, a lot of the information we all got growing up about salt was not correct. We actually need more salt than people think. And it does not necessarily lead to high blood pressure if we're doing everything else correctly. So yes, people with a low carb lifestyle, whether they're doing ultra or even any kind of athletics or not, do require more salt, and they want it in a good form. Another thing that people don't know about salt, anytime you see salt that's white, and it doesn't matter if it says it's sea salt or that it's natural, organic. If your salt is white, it has been bleached. Take sea salt, for example. Sea salt is made, what they call sea salt is made by collecting seawater and letting it evaporate and then collecting the salt that's left. That salt, when it's left after the water has evaporated, is kind of a horrible, ugly, dirty, beige color. But nobody's going to want to buy that. And so they literally bleach it. Wow. And the same thing with, the Morton salt that we all grew up on. It's been literally bleached. The salt that we use in Ultrasalt it comes from Utah. It's a company called Real Salt. And actually that's the product. The company is called Redmond Real Salt, because it's in Redmond, Utah. It's the same concept as the Himalayan pink salt. What that means is these are ancient seabeds that from seas that long since, or oceans that long since, geology moved millions of years ago, and created these basically salt deposits that are multiple miles deep and many, many acres wide. And there is the two of the biggest deposits in the world are in the Himalayas and in Utah, where there was an ocean at one point many, many millions of years ago. So the Himalayan salt is great, but in the Himalayan mines, they blast mine, which uses explosives and causes some contamination sometimes. The salt that's mined in Utah is scrape mined. So they have these big, what look like what do they call those, cherry pickers, you know, the big kind of things with a big arm that comes up.
Yeah.
And it has a big steel drum at the end with these like hooks on it, and it just rotates, and it literally just carves the salt out of the walls of the mine. And then another a tool, big like tractor kind of a thing, comes through and picks it up. And then literally the only thing that they do to it is grind it. There's not another process they do. They grind it to a variety of different textures depending on what people want. So they sell the coarse and the kosher and the fine and the ultra, ultra, ultra fine, which is what we use for the electrolyte formula, which is, you know, ground. It's like literally as fine as baby powder. It's just super, super fine. So that you can, it dissolves and absorbs in the body really, really quickly. And B, you can pack more in it. It's just, you know, like if you take a cup and you fill it with marbles, you're not going to get as much weight as if you fill it with sand because there's more space in there, right? So you can pack more into a capsule with the really fine powder than you can with a coarser grain.
I did not know. I've often, you know, I get real salt a lot, and I love at the conferences, you know, stocking up in their little tiny bottles.
I love those little ones. I take them everywhere with me.
Yeah,
First of all, it's delicious salt. It's really got a great flavor.
Yeah. So I didn't know though, but the scraping with it, but it makes sense. You know, you're adding toxic explosives to salt in the Himalayan sea salt. That's crazy.
Yeah. Vinny and I actually took, before we made our deal with Redmond to supply the salt for Ultrasalt, we flew out to Utah and we took a tour of the mine, which was incredible. It was fantastic. I have even here somewhere I can show you. I picked up this big rock off of the floor of the mine, just this big, beautiful pink rock. And the guy said, you're welcome to take it with you if you want. And I've got it sitting here on a table.
Wow.
It's beautiful. And you can even see in it all these flecks of darker colors, blacks and kind of purples. And what those are the other, like the trace minerals.
Mm-hmm.
So in that salt, you'll have, you know, something like 65 different trace minerals. And nobody can explain this, but the chemical profile of this particular strain of salt, and they're all very similar in terms of the mineral profile, but this particular vein in Utah, the profile is almost identical to the mineral profile of human plasma.
What?
It's really, really close. Yeah.
Huh. Never heard that. You're filled with trivia.
I have a lot of trivia.
So I know other supplements like magnesium you have, and that's a big one for repair and recovery at nighttime.
Yes.
I like to take it for helping sleep.
Yes.
So what do you have in the magnesium? Is it different types, or is it, how's that?
Yes.
That has the different.
Here, the thing about magnesium is essentially nature's relaxant. It relaxes everything in your body. It relaxes your muscles. It relaxes your mood. It actually helps stabilize your mood. And it helps promote good sleep. Magnesium comes in a variety of different forms, again, depending on which molecule it is bound to. We we call it the broad spectrum magnesium cap, broad spectrum because it's using 4 different types. So we chose, we balanced the formula for a couple of reasons. Number one, as I said earlier, magnesium citrate, which is the most commonly distributed, which is a fine product for what it is meant to do. It's primarily, got a laxative effect. So magnesium products that people take with a lot of magnesium citrate, they're going to have a laxative effect. If that's what you're taking it for because you have irregularity problems, then that's great. You know, if you are getting a colonoscopy, for example, and they need to clean you out the day before, that's what they send you home with is a magnesium citrate solution. And you drink that horrible, horrible magnesium citrate solution and you have to stay home all day because you're going to be going to the bathroom all day. So we do have a little bit of magnesium citrate in our formula. It's about 6% of the actual magnesium in our formula comes from citrate, which is not enough to create that effect, but it is enough to kind of help keep things moving smoothly without being too aggressive in that. The bigger parts of the formula are, the magnesium glycinate, which is the most easily tolerated of all of them by the body and the best for long-term consumption. We do use some magnesium carbonate, again, because we like to keep things fairly on the alkaline side for these. Magnesium is very helpful. For example, if you're prone to nighttime leg cramps, which a lot of people do, especially on low-carb diets. I know for myself, and I follow the NSNG lifestyle, but I'll be the first to admit I occasionally cheat, and I'll have a little, sweet treat or something. And I know better, because when I do it, my reaction is, when especially I've been clean from sugar, if I have a little sugar, I sometimes will get cramps at night. All of a sudden I'll feel my leg cramp. Sometimes even my hands will cramp. And the magnesium will help with that. So the glycinate, the carbonate, and then we also add something that's not in very many formulas. It's called magnesium taurate. And what that does is that helps regulate your heart rhythm. So anybody who ever experiences any kind of arrhythmia or skip beat, this really helps to level that out, and it just keeps everything nice and calm. So magnesium will help improve sleep, help improve the quality of sleep. A lot of people actually report that their dream activity will increase, or they'll start remembering more dreams when they're on magnesium or this magnesium, because you're sleeping more deeply, and that's when you're going to dream. So it's those four: the glycinate, the carbonate, the taurate, and a little bit of citrate.
Yeah,
and nothing else.
They're great at nighttime. I do definitely sleep better taking magnesium.
Oh, absolutely. I take 2 every night.
Yeah, I notice when I don't, especially I think after, people are training longer, I definitely have less quality sleep. So, 'cause I think taking that magnesium before bed is always my thing.
Well, yeah, because it does, kind of calm you out a little bit too.
Yeah. And so another one I know I'd like to talk about is B12, because I've been into, helping my own self get healthier from the inside out. But a lot of it is looking at my genetic SNPs and how to optimize my methylation cycle and my mitochondria function and repair. And the more I learn about it is, the methylfolate and having the B vitamins, but B12 is so needed for everyone, especially if you're not a big meat eater. Like for years, I wasn't eating meat. And also if you have any dysfunction digestive system, like H. pylori in your stomach organ, you're not going to have that intrinsic factor to help make B12. And then also if your microbiome is damaged. And so B12 is just so important for making energy in our cells. So talk about that a little bit. What trivia?
Yeah. B12 is, people think of it as the energy vitamin, and that is true. But it does a lot more. And there are a couple, really important considerations about B12 that people don't think about. And even doctors will prescribe B12 that is not a healthy form. First of all, you need to know that there are 2 main forms of vitamin B12. And again, this has to do with what kind of molecule it's bound to. So there is methylcobalamin, which is a methylated version of cobalamin, which is the actual B12. It's called cobalamin. And then there's something called cyanocobalamin, and that's very commonly put into supplements, and even you'll see that in prescriptions and sometimes even B12 injections. And the problem with cyanocobalamin, well, there are a couple of problems. Number one, it's called cyano because what it is bound to is a cyanide molecule. Now, that's not obviously enough to literally poison you, like if you took a dose of cyanide, but it is a poison, cyanide, and your liver will recognize it as such. So when you take a cyanocobalamin, your body, first of all, can't process it. So the body in the liver goes through a process of converting it to the form that is found in nature, which is methylcobalamin. So if you're getting vitamin B from B12 from meat, it's coming in the form of methylcobalamin. That's the way it is in nature. And by the way, vitamin B12 does not occur in any plant-based foods, only in animal-based foods. So if anybody is listening who is a vegan, they'll know that they have to take a B12 supplement because they're just not going to get any from their diet. So the cyanocobalamin has to be converted by the liver, which means by the time it gets into your system, you've already lost a lot of the value of it. And at the same time, your liver is having to work to do that. So it's putting a strain on your liver to do that. It's giving it another function that it didn't need to have.
Yeah, it's already overloaded.
Yeah. So that's number one. Number two, B12 is not absorbed well in the gut, which has to do with the acid levels in the gut. So if you're swallowing a B12, you're not going to absorb most of it. And some people will absorb almost none of it because everybody has a different gut chemistry. So the only really efficient ways to get B12 are either through injections or by dissolving it under the tongue, sublingual. So that leaves you, if you don't want to be going to the doctor's office all the time to get jabbed, you need to be taking a sublingual. Well, the problem with most sublinguals is, and I can show you actually here, I'll show you a B12. I mean, you know what they look like. They're tiny, tiny, tiny tablets.
Yeah,
but
like
even
a
on
baby
that,
aspirin. They're like
they're like, exactly, they're like the size of baby aspirin. They're absolutely tiny, but even in that tiny amount, the amount of that is the actual B12 is like a speck. It's just a tiny, tiny drop of B12 that's enough for for a fairly large dose even. So the rest of that tablet has to be made of something, or you wouldn't be able to manipulate it. You wouldn't be able to do anything with it. So virtually every other vitamin B12 sublingual on the market uses one of two different ingredients for the base ingredient, what it's largely made out of. They use either lactose, which that's fine for some people, but some people don't absorb lactose well, and it is a sugar. Or they use something called microcrystalline cellulose. And the word cellulose is confusing to a lot of people because it covers a wide range of actual ingredients. So a piece of broccoli is essentially cellulose, and that's obviously a very healthy form of cellulose. But, a piece of wood is also cellulose. It's a different kind of cellulose. Microcrystalline cellulose, the type that they use for most of the tablets, is they call it a micro nanoparticle because it's been refined so fine that the actual particles are so small that they're able to penetrate your cell walls. So they'll go in and out of your cell walls, and some of them get stuck inside your cells and never come out, and that causes inflammation. So now you have a permanent sort of collection of these little micro nanoparticles inflaming you at the cellular level.
Wow.
So we didn't want to use that.
Yeah.
We didn't want to use the lactose, which also, again, for our vegan friends is no good. That's not a vegan product. Sometimes you can't help that, but with this we knew that we could. The other things that companies do, every other company on the market, is they have to find a way to make sure that the tablet disintegrates, that it dissolves. So they put in disintegrants of some sort, which is another chemical. Then they want to make it palatable. So they put in, cherry flavoring or mint flavoring or something. And then, that's going to be very bitter unless they make it sweet. So they put in a little bit of some sort of artificial sweetener, usually not sugar, because it's so small that you wouldn't be able to put in enough sugar to make it sweet enough. So they use some sort of artificial sweetener. So you have this little chemical storm of junk with the B12. So our challenge, and this was the hardest one for us to figure out of all the products we've put on the market so far, was what do we make this out of? How do we get it to hold together? And that's the other thing, is some sort of a flow agent to keep it flowing through the machine properly. And everybody else uses magnesium stearate, which a lot of controversy around it. Some people say it's harmless. We believe that it's an unnecessary product and that you shouldn't take a chance with it. So we were able to come up, working with our manufacturing partners, with a formula where the base ingredient that the B12 is attached to, the methylcobalamin, is calcium, just plain calcium, calcium citrate. It is something that you would put in your body anyway. We all need calcium. It's not enough calcium that, you know, you can say this is my calcium supplement, but it's a benign, easy product that you would, you know, gladly put in your body anyway. So that's what the B12 is attached to. And then in order to make it work and not gum up the machine, it did need some sort of a lubricant.
I just lost you. Hold on. Okay.
Okay. So we didn't want to use an artificial lubricant. So we do add an ingredient called calcium laurate. And what that is, that's calcium combined with lauric acid. And lauric acid is the fat that you find in coconut oil or MCT oil.
Yeah.
So this is a very healthy ingredient. This is very assimilated, easily assimilated by the body. It doesn't interfere with the absorption at all. It doesn't give you anything toxic. There's just a little bit, which is what enables us to manufacture it. And then instead of being held together by any kind of a binder, it's held together by pressure. We created an actual special die for the tableting machine to get the right size. And it's just the pressure applied to that combination of ingredients creates the tablet. What you get is a little pink tablet, and people wonder, well, why is it pink? And the reason it's pink is vitamin B12 itself is red in its natural form. So when you add that to the calcium, which is white, you get pink. There's no color added to it. It doesn't have any flavor. Some people report like a very, very mild kind of a chalky kind of flavor. It's not terribly smooth when it dissolves. It's not going to just, you know, melt away beautifully. Like you're going to feel a little tiny bit of a grit, but that's the payoff that we think is worth it. That it's clean. It doesn't have like any junk in it. And what we have heard from our clients has been remarkable, where, you know, we hear constant stories from people who took vitamin B12 tablets and even injections for years and never got their levels up in their blood work, and take ours, and within a month their blood work is great.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk about these with you today, these vitamins and minerals, because so many people take things and they're not even absorbing them. And so it's really quality and work on making sure we're eating the right foods, but with proper digestion, but supplementing with stuff where we're not throwing your money away. And that's why I love companies as yourself, because I know you and Vinny aren't going to put their name behind something that is garbage. And they're, you know, I know Vinny's very into clean and everything behind it. So I think it's essential to not make this a sales podcast, but just importance of whatever supplements you choose to buy, you need to make sure it's quality supplement that you're actually going to get that benefit from it, or else you're just throwing your money away.
Right. Look, we asked all the time, you know, do you have a vitamin C? Do you have a CoQ10? Do you have this, that, or the other? And we only have right now 6 products, because we, you know, we're still a small company, even though we're, you know, almost 6 years old now. We're still fairly small. We add products as we can successfully, both from a financial standpoint, as we can afford to do it, and from a research standpoint, as we, you know, feel that we have the formula down to where we want it. So somebody says, you know, what do you think about this company's vitamin C? I'll tell them to the best of my ability. Some products I say, you know what, there's not one that I really recommend, but these are maybe the least offensive. But it's not about trying to get people to buy our products. It's about getting people to be very vigilant about the labels and making sure that they understand what they're getting.
Yeah, proper education is what we're trying to help. So we just have a few minutes left, because I have an appointment after this. But the other one is so important that we need to spend the last few minutes on is vitamin D, and especially with coronavirus. vitamin D and vitamin C are two supplements people say will help improve your immune system and respiratory system. So the other part, vitamin D, you think you just get out from sunshine, exposing your skin to sunshine, but most people are not in.
Right,
not
right.
spending any time outside, even if they do have sunshine.
Right.
It is out. They're covered up or they throw sunscreen on. So I think vitamin
No,
D.
that's absolutely right. And there is some vitamin D in food, but we get most of it from sunshine. Mm-hmm. That is where we get most of it. And I want to be really, really clear here, because I've seen a lot of companies trying to capitalize on our current health crisis, saying that basically implying directly or indirectly that taking vitamin D is going to protect you against the virus. No. And I want to make it very, very clear that the virus is the virus, and the only way to protect yourself against it is by taking all the precautions that the medical and epidemiology experts are telling us to do. The social distancing, the hand washing, all of that. However, it does strengthen the immune system, as does vitamin C, which again, if you're infected with the virus, you're infected with the virus. But you want to keep your immune system as strong as possible, and vitamin D is an important part of that. A lot of people ask about dosing on vitamin D and think that, well, I really want to really be strong about this and take a whole bunch, so if 2,000 IU is good, then 10,000 IU is better. Yeah. And that's just not the case. Yes. You really don't want to exceed for maximum kind of 5,000, 6,000 IU a day. The FDA is actually just now changing their labeling guidelines about that, and they're switching from IU as the measure to milligrams. But either way, it's you don't want to go overboard. Our vitamin D, we worked really hard on. Vitamin D is one of the fat-soluble vitamins, which means that it gets stored in the liver in fat, and which means it should also be delivered in a fatty vessel. So the best forms of vitamin D are delivered in what they call the soft gels that are filled with oil. Most companies use some sort of a junk oil. They'll use a safflower oil or some sort of a vegetable oil. Those oils are not healthy. So we pack ours in extra virgin olive oil that we import from Italy, from Villa Capelli. Yeah. Which is almost a shame because it's so delicious and you don't get to actually taste the oil that's in there, but it's just really pure and clean. The one thing I will say to our vegan friends is this is not a vegan product. Vitamin D3, the best sources from it are animal-based. There are vegetarian, vegan versions of vitamin D3, but they're not really as potent or as well absorbed. So vitamin D3 comes from lanolin, which is the oil found in sheep's wool. So that's a choice vegans have to make. But we couldn't in good conscience put out a vitamin D that wasn't in that form. Yeah, and I think going back to dosage, everyone's different by individual. So you have to, make sure you ideally get lab testing to know where your vitamin D levels are now to get the whole picture. And remember, every single thing we talk about in health and nutrition and working on your immune system is in exercise, and everything is more is not better. Less is not always. Yeah. Optimal, not maximal. Optimal amount is that Goldilocks effect, and every single person is different how much they need. And remember, not over supplementing is not good either than under supplementing. So it's that fine amount of how much is good for you as an individual. But lab testing is really beneficial to get kind of your blood chemistry, see where you are right now, and that's going to change. So getting frequent lab testing to evaluate your current health status and meet your body where it's at is really essential. Correct.
So I know I just have a last minute or two. There's so much more on the website to go into, and you have great blogs. So if people go to purevitaminclub.com to learn more about the supplements, and it's very affordable, because I know I spend a ton on supplements. It's pretty much what my money goes to, is butcher box and getting clean food locally, but then ordering supplements online. So people can join, like buy individually, but you could save if you find that really makes you feel better. You notice a difference taking certain supplements. And like you said, you just have a few, but they're the key ones that people need. And you know how much go into, as you just explained, each supplement is, very much made with love.
Yeah.
And
also, I did want to mention for people who have children, younger children, like under 10, that we do have a children's formula now, and they are capsules. They're very small, so that children can swallow them. But every children's vitamin on the market is some sort of a chewable
candy,
or a gummy full of sugar and artificial sweeteners. We didn't want to do that.
Yeah,
so
when it says gummies, it usually means candy.
It's candy. We say, we're not going to sugarcoat this for you. These are vitamins, not candy.
Yeah.
And for those people whose children just can't or won't swallow capsules, you can actually open them up and mix them in yogurt or some sort of soft food, or just water. It has almost no taste. But most children from like 5 and over can really easily swallow them, because we've made them very small.
Yeah, and I would think children are deficient already just based on their
diets. It's so hard to get
what they're eating
properly
nowadays. Crazy. So I will put the links in the show notes, and we have a special discount code to offer 15% off your first order. And you can use the code low carb athlete in there. And we have it all set up. That will be available for the next 60 days. And keep up to date on new products coming out and blog posts. Do you have a email list, or how do people get to know what?
Yes, anybody who orders from us automatically winds up on our mailing list. If they don't want to be on the mailing list, they can unsubscribe the first time they get anything from us. But yeah, you'll get all the alerts from us to, we'll constantly run different specials and all that seasonally. And we put out information on our blog. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We try to keep all of those updated with general information, but also, things that are relevant to whatever's going on in the world.
Good. Well, thank you, Andy, for your time, and you're filled with trivia and information. I think it's important to understand what you're taking and why, and how is it made, because it's definitely quality over quantity, and getting the right ingredients, because there's so much junk out there. I ordered just my supplements online, because the stores, when you buy stuff, you don't know what's in there. So
that's right.
I appreciate you explaining it a little bit more in detail for our listeners, to help them optimize their health. And recovery and repair is essential for performance, but longevity is what my main goal is to teach everyone. Don't look at just performing well this year, but also look at how you're going to be performing in life when you're 70, 80 years old and trying to enjoy retirement.
Exactly. Okay. Well, thanks, Debbie. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.